Welcome to another episode of Matt Talk. Our first episode was on COVID-19 a few weeks ago with Dr. Pooja Shah, infectious disease physician from Edison, New Jersey. Today we have Dr. Vasudev Makhija, mental health provider as well as president of South Asian Mental Health Initiative and Network, SAMIN, a non-profit organization addresses the mental health needs of South Asian community in the United States. The goal of SAMIN is to decrease the stigma, some misbelief, and shame associated with mental illness and offer resources for people who seek help. Our discussion today is on current public health emergency with COVID-19, and we already heard so much on TV, social media, and from the medical providers all over the world and experts on what COVID-19 is and what are the steps we can take to prevent getting the infection and reduce transmission and stay healthy. However, today, we will be discussing the mental health aspect and impact of COVID-19 in general population where a lot of anxiety and panic and fear about the disease. The social distancing and closing of the schools, colleges, restaurants and theaters and almost all public gatherings for the past few weeks and staying home recommendation by the government have many impact on socioeconomic as well as physical health, but has some challenging effects on mental health also. As we all going through these rough times in our lifetime, especially unemployment, business shutdowns, or volatile financial market and uncertainty, many people are stressed and have a lot of anxiety, which can result in depression, loss of sleep, and other mental health conditions. So let's hear from one of our own mental health expert from the South Asian community. Welcome, Dr. Makhija, and welcome to Med Talk.
Thank you.
So I want to start with a question which is in mind of so many people right now. People are worried and nervous, and there is a panic which is a significant concern to many people. Can you tell us how our mental health affects our physical health, and do you believe that we will have a crisis with mental health? Is anxiety and fear normal during this time of current epidemic with COVID-19? What are your thoughts on this?
I think these are very challenging times for all of us, and no one is spared from the impact of this COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, I think it has brought humanity to its knees globally, and we are all worried, confused, scared, and fearful. I think that is normal. I think, in fact, I would go to the extent and say that if you're not worried, something is wrong.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the normal worry. I mean, normal worry in terms of that fuels your taking actions to help protect you and take the steps so things don't get out of hand. So the second question was, second part of the question was, is it going to be crisis with mental health? As I said, I think these are normal emotions, normal experiences. It has caught everybody by surprise.
Yeah.
And so we are all kind of figuring out how to take this, and it's evolving, and daily we hear things and we are adjusting our emotions and our anxieties. So I have not really seen a crisis in mental health, honestly. I think these are normal things, and just because you have some mental illness, let's say depression, schizophrenia, or bipolar, or whatever, it doesn't mean you cannot have these normal emotions. And people are with that, just like with diabetes, people with a mental illness are just as likely to experience these normal emotions. Doesn't mean they are having a mental health crisis.
Yeah. So I think what I gather from your talk is that this is a normal reaction because this is something new, which is creating a lot of panic, fear, and anxiety. And I think people need to learn on coping with this kind of issues in our lifetime. So the next question I have, Dr. Makhija, is people are watching news and getting nervous all the time. Some of them are 24/7 on watching the news, the social media. What is your advice, and how can people avoid contributing to the panic during this rough time and this pandemic?
We humans uh, are drawn to witnessing and watching the disaster. I mean, we all have experienced driving on a highway, and the traffic is jammed, and we don't know why. And then we realize as we get closer that everybody's slowing down to watch an
The
accident on the
accidents.
other side of the highway.
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and there is no reason, but we all have that curiosity. Oh my God, let me see what's going on. So same thing here. Many of us watch or read, or even listen on podcasts. Tons of them to keep us with what is happening. We want to know what's happening. We want to know what they are doing about it.
Yeah.
But deep down, I think we also want to uh, get a positive and hopeful, reassuring message that the coronavirus is receding. But then, unfortunately, we find out that things are getting back to worse, at least at
Yes.
this stage.
Yes.
you know and it feels like it's going to last forever, and it's going to kind of consume and destroy all of us. And just because it feels that way doesn't mean that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, you probably, most people remember in our times the swine flu H1N1
Yes.
in 2003 in China, Vietnam, and Taiwan, I think. And then there was the SARS
SARS.
infection,
Yeah. Yeah.
and of course the infamous Spanish flu of 1918,
Yeah.
in which I think 675,000 Americans were killed,
Yeah.
and compared that to only, I think, 50,000 or 55,000 of soldiers killed in the World War One.
Right.
So those events of tremendous magnitudes ended, passed. We survived.
Yes.
Many of them have forgotten that. And I think we need to remember that this too shall pass. No matter how bad it seems, there will be an end to it. Researchers are working, and we have to remind ourselves constantly that researchers are
Yes.
working round the clock to globally to find a cure to this,
And
find
the vaccine.
vaccines
Yes.
and the vaccines. So it's a matter of time. It will come, it will slow it down. We have already seen in some countries that the virus is slowing down. So we
Yes.
need to remember that, not just focus on, oh my God, how bad it is getting.
Yes. Yes.
So watching this news constantly fuels our anxiety and worries. And I think we need to discipline our consumption of media.
Yes.
And in fact, this is what I practice, and I would recommend to others: watch the news, or listen, or read the news, or listen to the news maybe once or twice a day, morning and evening. There are no breaking news every 5 minutes,
Right.
even though the network wants to believe that there is a
Yes.
breaking news
Yes.
every five
Yes.
minutes. There isn't. You don't need to know every time they find a new case.
Yes.
It doesn't serve any purpose. It's just
Right.
making us more anxious. So we need to stop contributing to our anxiety and worry. That's what I would suggest.
Very, very good advice, Dr. Makhija. So, as a mental health provider and the expert in mental health issues, what are some of the challenges people are facing right now? And what can we do to stay calm? And what can people do to feel better, less stressed, and live a normal life and be happy? I know it's not a time to be happy. However, the life goes on, and I think we need to find ways to become little happy, spend time with the families, and stay connected. I know there is a social distancing, but there is no uh, distancing, calling people, or staying in touch with people remotely. So what are your
Absolutely.
thoughts and advice?
Absolutely. I think one thing I want to say is that, one of the things that they keep reporting, how many people have died. So we are getting two numbers. What is the total number
Okay,
of
sis, yes.
people infected? How many people are dying? And what we are not hearing and what we are not focusing is on how many people are actually recovering.
Recovery, yeah.
Coronavirus, as you know, causes respiratory infection, and most of them are mild and they recover.
Yes.
Small percentage of people succumb to it, and 1 in 5, I think, maybe get hospitalized for care, but they recover. We need to constantly remind ourselves so it doesn't get out of hand in our mind. I think we are all faced with the challenge of finding a new norm in our daily routine. I think uh, people are suddenly forced into new challenges. One is suddenly overnight all the schools were closed, all the colleges were closed, so all the kids were home, and the parents have to work from home. So that becomes a challenge, the child care, and then setting up the school for the kids if there's homeschooling, virtual schooling. Uh, Working from home has its own challenges constantly that is brought to people. So, and on top of all that, the normal outlets that we have in coping with normal stresses of life are all shut down. Going for a
Yes.
walk, going for movies, going to theater, music classes, or satsangs, or going to the places of worship, yoga, meditation, and things like that. But what I say is that yes, all those are shut down, but we need to be creative and come up with new ways of finding uh, ways of entertaining and relaxing ourselves.
Yes, yes, very good point. So, based on the last recommendation you had, so I hear people are getting bored staying home. What tips do you have for those individuals overcome their boredom, and how best someone can occupy their mind while staying home? Any thoughts or recommendations for our audience?
I think, not too long ago, we were all complaining, my God, I'm so busy. I don't have time. It was like you know, complained by everybody virtually. And now
Yes.
we have so much time and we are saying we are bored. And so I think we need to figure out, reinvent what we are doing with our time.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things I would suggest is, people need to have a clear structure and routine in their life. They
Mhm.
should try to go to bed at the same time and wake
Yes.
up. Just because we are like in a not a vacation but vacation mode
Bored.
mentally, we may tend to stay up late watching this late night news and opinion or whatever on coronavirus, and or maybe watching a movie late
Movie.
and
Yeah.
then get up late. It's kind of messing up the whole sleep cycle. So we need to maintain a good sleep hygiene. I think we need to find creative ways of entertaining ourselves and uh, playing games with your kids
With
and
kids.
with others. Board games, clear up the dust from those board games that you have in
Right.
your cellar or in your closets and start playing those, and you'll be surprised uh, how much entertainment is in that. Or
Yeah.
you can play virtual games. I came
Yes.
across this very cool game yesterday. In fact, I recommended to a friend of mine who has children. It's called Just a Line. If you go on app and download it, it's on Android and iPhone. People can hold it and play with each other and record video, and it just cool things. And there are a bunch of others they can search online, virtual games. There's a quick draw, and there's autodraw.com. They can download these free games and entertain themselves.
Yeah.
And just because the yoga classes have stopped doesn't mean you cannot do yoga, meditation, even Zumba or yoga at home
Virtually.
in
Yes.
privacy of your
Yes.
home. You
Yes.
should still, so you set up a routine so you can work all those activities in your routine.
So I think
Uh,
people, yeah, people should utilize the technology at the best. I think a lot of things are available virtually via Skype. You can do many things. You can sing a song with your friends, with Smule, and many other activities you can do to reduce the stress. And I think have a normal routine while this is going on. So I think that
right.
was very good tips, Dr. Makija.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. I want to add this. You're a
Yeah,
karaoke singer, so I do
yeah, yes,
karaoke. Do
yes, yes.
karaoke,
Yes,
and
in fact, one of the groups from our singing group has started already virtual on Skype last Sunday. So I'm looking forward to it if that happens next week. I'll be probably trying myself. So
Yes,
good
yeah.
tips. So
You can become creative with cooking, find new
yes,
recipes, you
yes,
know.
yes, yes, yes. A lot of things available on YouTube and many other virtual platforms where people can use. So one of the question I have, Dr. Makhija, is it's a challenging. It's a so a lot of workforce in the U.S., the private sector and even the government or public sector, a lot of people are teleworking, working from home. And what are the challenges for people when they have to work, especially uh, when they're not used to of staying home or maybe staying home for one day for telework or 2 days. Now they have to work Monday to Friday, the entire day. How they can keep their mind active and cope up with the mental health. As you know, they are they have routine life when they go to office. They have interactions with their coworkers or colleagues, and now they are home. They don't have that human to human interactions, and it becomes for some people. I can tell it becomes real challenge. How can they overcome these challenges on their daily life?
Actually, you're right. I think it's people are complaining they are not as productive working from home, and I'm learning this. These are normal challenges of changes in our life that have been thrown
Yes.
at us. They're not mental health problems, and I'm learning this from talking to people. One of the things working from home, as I mentioned earlier, is you need to set up the routine
Yeah.
and a structure, and that includes you get up in the morning, get ready, comb your hair,
Yeah.
and for women, wear your makeup, and don't just sit in your pajamas. Get dressed,
And
and
then
as if
start.
you're going to the office. And so mentally, somehow that will kind of get you into that mode of working. And again, going back to going to bed on time, getting up on time, and in the office, people are used to taking brief breaks without even thinking. They might just
Yeah.
go to the water cooler, have a drink, say hello to a colleague, or
Or go to
talk about
restroom.
some
Yeah. Yeah.
unimportant things,
Yeah.
and then it may be just 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Go to the restroom or have a coffee break. And but when they're working at home, they're kind of get themselves in a hole in front of their laptop or your desktop, and they're just working, and they get consumed and they get kind of close to burning out, for example. It's
Yes.
too soon to burn out now, but it's getting there. So I think what people are creatively doing, and I would recommend others to do it, is take those breaks just like you do at work.
But
And so you may not have a colleague to do it. You might want to just go to the other room, make a call, or have a coffee break with your family. Or if you have a young child, go play with the child a little bit.
yes.
Or if you have a sick parent, go care for them, go
Good
say
for
hello
them.
to
Yes.
them.
Yes.
So you can find ways of taking a break, or take a deep breath,
Deep
or
breath.
just go out
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
yard and then maybe
Yes.
go and get a fresh air, or
Absolutely.
go for a
Yes.
walk for 5 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
So
Definitely.
that will help you get into that mode.
Got it. So, for general population, how can we all stay focused on our current task? Whatever is scheduled in our life, it's on hold right now. Most of the outside stuff, and how can we overcome the extreme worrying we have? I know worry is a normal part of our human reaction during this time, but how we all can overcome that extreme worrying in our life?
Right. I think worrying is normal, but when it gets to be excessive, then it kind of hampers us. Then we become less functional. It slows us down. So I think we need to overcome some of that and not let it get out of hand. And one of the things, as I said earlier, stop binging on media.
TV, yes,
If you want to binge on your favorite movie, favorite
movies,
show,
or
to
reading the
get
book.
a
Yeah,
or read a book,
yeah,
read a
yeah.
book. And if you can't go to the library or go buy a book, just use your Kindle, or dust up the old books that you have in your collection that you haven't had time to read. I would say that. Monitor your thoughts. One of the things is, what are you most worried about? Write it on paper, and then do something about it,
Yeah,
and then see how realistic it is. You might be worried unnecessarily about something that you don't have any control over.
control over. Yes, yes. And I think this is a global issue. This is not that this is your family issue or your personal health issue. This is a global pandemic, and I think we all need to be part of the solution and not the problem. Very good recommendations, Dr. Makhija. So even though people are relaxing with things such as meditation, reading, and yoga, and I know as a mental health provider, you see some patients, or even on the medicine side, we see some patients has some issues with their heart rate increasing. uh, what else can they do to help lower the heart rate and promote the overall calmness other than taking medications? I know taking medication, taking Xanax or some calming agent, it's very easy. But how can someone do it without taking some normal approach to calm themselves?
For two immediate things, I would say is one, stop checking your heart rate constantly.
Yes.
That's only going
Yes.
to make it faster.
Yes.
Okay. And number, what's the, stop checking your heart rate and find things to do to distract your mind.
Hmm.
Okay. And uh, find your biggest worry, what you're worried about. Write it down, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, find other creative things that you can engage yourself in. Pick up a phone and talk to somebody.
Somebody. Yeah.
uh, Another thing, that one of the things that has been shown is that altruism, or kind, an act of kindness,
And a kindness. Yes.
it goes a long way in practicing compassion. It really, research has shown that it results in uh, good feeling, a true
Yeah.
happiness actually,
Happiness.
and it
Yeah.
is lasting happiness. So find where you can practice act of kindness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I read this story which was really heartwarming recently about this newspaper man who this elderly lady, his name is Greg Daly from, I think, some Monmouth County somewhere. Um, and she said, I can't pick up the newspaper from the end of the driveway. Can you drop closer to my door? And he realized
Yeah.
that this lady is afraid of walking to the end of the driveway.
Driveway. Yeah.
So he said, he realized that. And so he told her, hey, listen, I'm at the shop, right? Do you want something from there? And she said, oh, that would be great. She said, can you get something from a neighbor too? So two people requested a list of things that they want to shop, right? Then he got an idea. So
Yeah.
with this newspaper delivery, he included this note introducing himself, gave email, phone number. Anybody needs anything, I'll provide this free service.
Yeah.
And that has taken off, and he's buying groceries for these elderly people. I mean, it's a great act of
Great.
kindness.
Yes.
And
Yes.
his whole family is involved in this. They are not bored at sitting
That
at
much.
home.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful.
So
Yes.
practice compassion.
Yes, yes. So I know you talked about positivity, stay positive, engage in positive activities. Does that help in our immune system? We feel like the social distancing is becoming so stressful and we are starting to become paranoid. What can you advise us to stay calm?
But we know that, I'm not an expert in immunology, but I know that stress does have impact on it.
On
People do tend to get sick more when they're under stress. If
stress?
somebody has eczema, for example, that tends to get worse when you are under stress. People having diabetes, their blood sugar tends to go out of whack
Yes,
when they're under stress. So you need to manage the stress. Yes, it does impact the body, but if you manage your stress and overcome the stress, your physical health will follow.
yes, yes. Thank you. So how about people already have mental health or substance use issues, depression, major depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, they have bipolar disorder, or they have some substance use disorder, which they have been currently managed by their mental health or medical providers. Do you put them any specific risk during this time of pandemic or the stressful situation? And what is your message for those vulnerable individuals or the population who are at additional risk of being uh, stressed?
But you're right. I mean, there is additional stress for them also. Like, as I said earlier, that just because they have this any of the mental illnesses doesn't mean they are not going to be affected by these other normal worries. They are just as vulnerable for that.
Yes.
But is that pushing them over the edge? Are we increasing the doses of medications or increasing the frequency of sessions with them? That hasn't been my experience, and that hasn't been the experience of my colleagues. I think to even though uh, many of the psychiatrists and other psychotherapists are now, because of the social distancing, have started seeing patients virtually, which means through one of the platforms on video conferencing or
Yes.
just by telephone. And it's an adjustment for everybody, for the mental health clinician plus their patients. Uh, but I think people are coping fairly well with that, and I haven't seen that worsening of the mental illnesses that people have. So no, I think they are doing well with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Good to know. So a lot of information, Dr. Makhija, you provided. So before we conclude today's segment, what are your final thoughts and message to our community during this stressful time? What is the what are some of the tips briefly you want to tell our viewers?
Well, one first, again, I want to reiterate and remind people, actually tell them to remind themselves that this is only temporary.
Mm,
This too shall pass. No matter what, no matter how bad a storm comes, it always passes, no matter how
mm,
bad. So we
yeah.
need to constantly remind ourselves of that, because we forget that. When we hear these 24/7 news media, we tend to forget this. So we need to constantly slow down and remind ourselves of that. Uh, we need to find comfort in different things, as we have discussed,
Yeah.
but also not become complacent. We do need to diligently follow all the recommendations from CDC and your
CDC.
state
Yes.
governments, and I
Yes.
think, and of course, don't forget to wash your hands,
Yes.
practice compassion.
Yes.
As I said earlier, that will do you some good. It will actually find you comfort, it'll find you happiness. You'll be surprised what happens to your stress after you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Practicing compassion. Monitor your thoughts, see what your biggest worries are, write them down, and then see how realistic that is, what you're
That is.
worried about, and
Yes.
then do something about it.
Yeah.
You can practice your yoga, meditation at home, do your spiritual practices, pray. All that is fine, but don't forget that you need to wash your hands.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Makhija, for this informative segment for our viewers to stay calm and focused during the current public health crisis. We wish everyone all the best in their physical and mental health. As we know, our community in US is very resilient during the time of natural disasters or adverse events. All the time we come across this, not this magnitude, but natural disasters on a regular basis. And um, we all need to stay focused, stay together, and help each other in the time of need, especially our vulnerable population and our seniors. Let's create positivity by disregarding fake videos or negative information we received on social media. If we can continue following the guidelines from CDC and other credible agencies and keep ourselves away from other people, keep social distancing as much as possible, and create positive outcome in the end, and we can all can resume normalcy in upcoming months. So I think this is the, like you say, this is very temporary. Hopefully we'll see end of light of the tunnel, and uh, soon will become normal in our daily lives. Thank you so much, Dr. Makija, for your time.
Thank you. I have one final thought I wanted to share.
Yes, yes, go
I
ahead.
think, well, if you don't mind, one thing I've seen in these social media messages, and I feel like there is no place for bigotry in this. We
Yes,
are all in this together,
together.
and we need to stop uh, saying that Chinese or other Asians are responsible for this virus. I think that is causing problems. And I think if we get a message, please don't forward that message, because we are
Absolutely.
doing disservice to our, Asian friends. We should not do that, and it's not the reality. We are all in this together. Nobody's one, any country is responsible for this virus. It is there. We need to cope with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this virus is in 175 countries and almost 500,000 people are affected. So I think we need to forget all those negative things and stay positive. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Makhija, and hope we can come back in few weeks with some good news. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.